All right, tonight's gonna be fun. I didn't want to have to do a video, but I need to put some things out there, and I'm gonna start this off by saying we posted a video, or not a video, we posted a post about these Big Tree Tech SKR E3 boards coming with these GD32 chips that I'm just gonna say it, they're STM32 knockoffs, pin compatible, clone, copy, whatever. They're imitations of the STM32 chips, and they do not work correctly with Marlin. In addition to not working correctly with Marlin, using the ST libraries that are provided that Marlin uses. So Marlin uses libraries from ST that allow the firmware to communicate with all the peripherals on the processor and talk to them correctly. The problem is that when you're using these libraries with a different company's chips, you are breaking the license agreement. So there's a potential issue if someone like us or the Marlin team adds official support for these chips to the firmware. We could run the risk of being sued by ST because we're enabling people to use their libraries with these other chips that are not ST. And it's very clear in the licensing information that ST provides. It's point number 4 that says it's not allowed to be used on anything but ST or ST licensed chips. So that's one of the main problems. We posted the photo. I keep wanting to say video. We posted the photo saying to check your boards because if you're having issues, this could be the cause. If you're having problems with Marlin on your SKRE3 board, there have been reports of these chips showing up in the wild. Now, here's where the situation gets fuzzy. And I'm going to show you guys what I have that initially started this. There was a ticket. I didn't reply to it because I saw SKR E3 issues and I'm like, okay, they're also not a customer. We're not wasting time on it. Now, I emailed this person asking them where they purchased it. So we're gonna establish that these boards were sold. This is the first step here. So we're establishing evidence that these boards were sold. So this is a link of a GitHub issue that Scott and I were discussing where this guy said he bought an SKR E3 Mini V2. This is a link to a Big Tree Tech site selling the board on a product page that says it comes with an STM32 chip. But you can see that he's noticed, okay, it's not an STM32, it's a gigadevice. Now, this thread is going in, and they're discussing about, okay, do we add the environment? Do we not? You know, are we going to have this target to compile for them? And even Scott was concerned about the legal issues, so it looks like it's probably not going to happen. So the other thing I have here, and this is a random person. I blurred out their IP address and their last name. Their email is not shown here. And the title of this was something like SKR E3 firmware issues or something like that. And you see here, I'm trying to get your firmware to work on my SKR board, but the USB keeps disconnecting. Can you help me? So you can see, didn't reply. He's not a customer. Saw SKR E3. I was like, we don't need to waste our time supporting someone else's products. And then when I was revisiting all this, I looked at it, and the picture is this picture right here, where you can clearly see the GigaDevice logo on the chip. Okay, so we see SKR, E3 Mini, V2, and the GigaDevice, okay? So, and this guy says he purchased from the Amazon store. I told him to send it back. The board's probably not going to work right. And that's it. So, and he's like, oh yeah, I saw your post. I'll send it back. So we have at least 2 things here. I have solid evidence here. We have at least a record of 2 of these boards being sold to people that were not aware they're buying a board with these clone processors. Now, here's where it gets interesting, which is why I'm making the video. There's this guy who is a moderator in the Big Tree Tech groups here that is trying to say the only reason that we posted anything about this is to make a sensationalized story. And obviously, you know, we have our own agenda to paint them in a bad light. I'm assuming he's meaning because we sell boards and we have our own board, which we also don't have because of the silicon shortage. That's the only reason we would say anything bad. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're using these inferior chips that don't work correctly, that if you use them with the current builds of Marlin, you're in violation of the software license. No, it has nothing to do with that. I just want you to buy my boards. No, it's not it. So this was what I took yesterday. You can see a screenshot up here. This is dated 8/4 11:29. So it was 11:29 Central Time. Now, before I started this, I went back and you can see he's edited the post here. And this is really interesting. So we're establishing the problem here and why there's something is out of sorts here. So he said that they were sent to beta testers, him being one of them. We'll go back here. You can see he said that here. He said that some boards were sold and labeled as GD boards on the sales page after the eval was done. There was never any attempt by BTT to brush them off as STM boards. Well, as we saw with the previous photos, there was. That's a fact. I do not think that the Giga device or any other STM32 compatibles or clones or whatever you want to call them, they're not going to meet the same standards as STM. They're trying to copy STM's chips that are well-known chips from a well-known manufacturer. And basically you can see here, their main reason now is cost. They're being cheap. They don't want to pay the higher prices on the chips like other people are doing. And so their solution is to give you guys products with subpar parts on them. Now, these chips may last for a while. They may not. We don't know because they're not widely used in this application. Me, myself, I'm not going to sell products or use products that I don't know the quality and longevity of them, and especially don't want to have issues where customers could have printers that could potentially burn their house down if the processor locks up because the code's not actually 100% compatible. So this is where it gets weird and why I wanted to put this out here. So you can see that he originally said it was just for beta testing, okay? And that some were sold, but they were also then distributed, and they think some of the distributors sent them out. So no way to verify that, just going off the information I hear. I'm giving you guys everything I have. So it sounds like they're getting ready to sell these boards to the customers, okay? Even though the firmware with Marlin doesn't work correctly, you can see here, SD access over USB still needing work. No, there's more than just that. The USB serial data connection drops after an hour or two, which is what multiple people have now said. The guy who emailed us and the guy on GitHub, regardless of what processor frequency they're running at. So I had checked my WeChat because it sucks at sending notifications, and this is Luciano. Luciano is a engineer, as far as I know, for Big Tree Tech. You can see here at 4:55 a.m. he sent me a message freaking out about the picture we posted, the CPU check that said Big Tree Tech's released boards that are shipping with knockoff CPUs that may have stability issues with STM firmware. Notice I said may. I was trying to tread carefully here because I want this to be out there, so if people are using our firmware, which is for an STM32, and they're having weird issues, there's something out there saying, hey, there's a known problem with these chips, with the firmware, our firmware, and even Marlin, because they're not supported processors. So you can see here, he said, again, so confirming, so there were beta testers, so he's confirming here. He said there's one feature still needed some work, enabling SD card access over the USB link. Other than that, the board works flawlessly. I think you just say something wrong about our company. And then I didn't see his message. He messaged me a couple times, and I messaged him back at 1 p.m. I said, hi there, I just got the notification from WeChat, and him and I have discussed previously, because of the chip shortages, if they were going to start using clone CPUs, and he told me they weren't. That's why I said here, I thought you said you were not going to use clone CPU. Now, he even told me in a prior conversation that they weren't because of stability issues. Now, just this one message, you can see here that it seems like they're moving forward and that they work flawlessly, but as soon as I say this, now he says, yes, we will not use that. And asked me to make a clear explanation about this. So here we are. Here's a clear explanation. There's more. I need to find the other chat here. So I had told him that we got, so this is continuing the thread. So just for continuity's sake, you can see there's the last message on that screenshot. Here's a message on the other one. So I said here, so you're not going to keep using the GD32 chips. And then he says again, yes, we will not use it. I said, was that my mistake? I was like, they emailed us because the firm for the STM32, they being this guy, that wasn't working on their boards. And then we discovered they had this different CPU. I mentioned it, I deleted it because I think they got off AliExpress, but that was wrong. I was just making an assumption there as to where they got it. But I sent him the screenshot I showed you guys with the customer information blurred out, and I had not emailed that guy back until after him and I had talked, because I'm like, I'm going to email and see if the guy responds and tells me, and that's when the guy told me he got it from Amazon. So I told him I'm not sure where it was from. I know I saw someone in the Big Tree Tech group saying that they got a GD chip or GD chip board from AliExpress. And then I told him here, I did not reply to the guy. Do you want me to email him? Again, he said, I think this is a misunderstand. And it's just, I don't get it. You're telling me that you're going to sell them, but now when I call you out for using cloned chips, now all of a sudden you're not going to use it. And you can see here, so he said, it's a beta and we will not sell. So what is it? You're selling them. They went to distributors. You're not selling them. I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat here? Like, am I being too harsh, or does something seem iffy here? You got their South African dude making posts saying that they're the best thing ever and they work just fine. But now I'm talking to the engineer here and he's saying, no, they're not using. I've asked him multiple times. And I did specify, because VoxLab is using these chips as well, which I also have a problem with. And I specifically called that out in our video. And this is one of the reasons why we haven't done firmware for VoxLab, because I wasn't sure about these chips, because they're copy chips. So I don't know what he means. I think you should contact us. And I don't know what he's saying. So that's why I told him, I was like, I'm not sure I understand. So I, again, asked him, so the boards will not be shipping with the GD CPUs anymore? And he said, yes. So he's confirming. And then I told him here, Scott from Marlin team is getting reports because users were trying to get them from Marlin. And those are publicly available. So I'm not the first one to post about these cloned chips. I'm just the first person that people actually pay attention to that aren't buried in GitHub threads, that there's cloned chips out here. I had no intention of trying to create drama or trying to shit on Big Tree Tech. I was literally just trying to let people know that, hey, if you got one of these boards, I'm just closing these out and moving my window over, that if you got one of these boards, that you're probably going to have issues because people are having problems with them because they're not actual STM32 chips. It's that simple. Now, you can believe me. I actually don't care if you believe me or not, because this is the actual truth here. They're copy chips. They don't work. That's the end of the story. And there's also now this conflicting information from their own admin and their groups saying that they are going to sell these boards, but then the engineers telling me they're not. So what's actually happening here? We do know that those boards have gone out, not just to beta testers. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be ridiculed and mocked by a bunch of, idiots in a Facebook group because I think the only reason I'm saying something is to sell more of my overpriced boards. Newsflash, I don't even have any of my overpriced boards to sell. I'm doing this because I have to deal with these kind of issues as someone that puts out firmware for these crappy Chinese boards, because the companies themselves don't support their own damn products. So I try to put firmware out to make people's lives easier, and part of this is dealing with this type of bullshit that they push on consumers. And their whole methodology is very clear. Here, we're pushing out shitty hardware. You guys figure it out. You guys as a community, all you Marlin developers, all you people like me who take time and passion to make firmware, you guys figure it out. We're just going to sit back and collect the money, not support our own product, and you guys can sort out all the software details because we're too damn lazy to pay people who know what they're doing to get this working. Now, going back to the whole license issue, the chips themselves, regardless if they're clones, copies, knockoffs, whatever, can be used if they had working libraries. But the problem right now is Marlin, over the last couple of releases, has moved away from the old Maple peripheral library to the actual ST libraries that are newer and more efficient. So in order to implement this properly, they could use the older Maple libraries, but they've just redone all the code to move to the new libraries for the genuine ST chips. So what do you do here? Do you just tell everybody who bought these printers with knockoffs, go pound sand? Because I'm apprehensive to release any firmware that specifically says this will work on the GD chips when we're using the ST libraries. And so are the developers on Marlin. Go look at the thread. I'll edit this description. It's also linked on our webpage. So if you go to the news section right now and click that, there's a GD32 clone CPUs. It's like Attack of the Clones or something like that. I was trying to be clever. there's information there to the issue where they're even saying that even at the slower CPU speeds, the USB still is not stable. So who are we to believe? The guy who is all over, like this Luke guy who's an admin in the Big Tree Tech group, is all over the group. He clearly has some sort of connection inside because he seems to get products early. He seems to be in all their beta tests, and he's literally an admin in their official company group. So there's something going on there. I don't know if he's someone they hired. I don't know if he's just someone that's, the hugest Big Tree Tech fanboy I've ever met in my entire life. But the reality is you can try to discredit me and say that, oh, the only reason I have anything bad to say is because we sell control boards as well. No, here's the reality. I would sell Big Tree Tech control boards if they weren't steaming piles of shit. And that's a fact. We sell MKS, we sell Creality, we've sold Creality boards for years, we've sold MKS boards, and we carry MKS boards, and we also have our own boards when we actually have stock on them. I'm not going to sit down and shut up just because a bunch of guys in a Big Tree Tech group are butthurt for pointing out something that's wrong with the product. You're fanboying over these cheap Chinese products that are built down to such a cost that the reputation is that, well, you might as well buy two of them because one of them is probably going to be DOA or it's only going to last you a couple months, and good luck getting any support from the company because they don't give a shit. They got your money. The only thing you have is getting the money back through a chargeback. I don't like seeing people throw their money away. And then, in addition to money, think about all the e-waste of all these Big Tree Tech boards that have been created because they're not worth fixing. Like, we have fixed boards that customers have fried. We've fixed boards that have had issues under warranty because I don't want to contribute to the e-waste problem that is in the world right now. We're in such a throwaway society, and boards like this are contributing to that problem. And it's only going to get worse because now they're not only taking the one part that was an actual genuine part on their product, but now this is also going to be a clone. And you can call it whatever you want. You can try to use whatever justification. Well, Giga Devices makes flash memory and stuff. Giga Device also uses the same part numbers at ST, except they chopped off the ST at the front of the part number and put GD. So if you want to fool yourself into thinking that they're not clones, copies, whatever, then that's fine. Live in your little world. But even after talking with other people that develop integrated products that use these type of CPUs for embedded applications, they've told me the GD processors are not stuff to go with because just on the timer side of things and how they handle data flow is inferior to the way ST does. So, there's other guys that are championing now, these GD chips can run at a faster megahertz and all this other stuff. Well, what you guys don't realize is that the way these chips time everything is not the same as the ST stuff. So even though it's pin compatible or whatever, the code doesn't run the same. And when you're dealing with stuff like on a 3D printer where timing is key, the motor's moving at the same way every single time and in sync with each other, and the code is written to anticipate that, you're going to have a ton of problems when you go and take a legitimate chip and remove it and put in something that's inferior. There's a reason they cost less. And most of the time with these copy chips, the reason they cost less is because they stole information from the company that originally designed the chip, and now they're just making it. They have no overhead, they have no skin in the game in terms of the R&D side. Now, I don't know if Giga Device has stolen any IP like to make the physical chips, but in general, if it's cheaper, there's a reason, and there's a reason the saying is you get what you pay for. And that's all there is to it. There was something else I was going to say, but it slipped my mind at this point. But, say what you guys want. You can disagree. You can agree with me. I'm just trying to, was literally just making the post to be like, hey, there's issues with these processors. So if you're having problems with the firmware, that's why. That's it. Wasn't trying to shit on BTT. Their products speak for themselves. I don't need to talk bad about them. Don't need to talk bad about them when the products fail all the time and the users leave their own reviews. I don't have to do any more further damage than they do by putting out subpar quality products. And like I said, I won't use them and I won't sell them. I'm not going to sell you guys stuff I won't use. If Big Tree Tech had brought their quality up and they overhauled stuff and made better products, I would gladly sell them because I've told the engineer before, I've told Luciana before in our chats that I do think that they have good ideas for products, but the problem is they start cost cutting and they take something that could have been good and turn it into something that fails, has high DOA rates, and is just impossible to use. And that's not even touching on the lack of properly coded software that they put out and reliability. You know, don't I don't care. Guys, keep buying their stuff if you guys want. I literally don't care. I think we're just probably going to stop doing firmware for the Big Tree Tech boards because the majority of their users are unappreciative and just want to bitch about every little thing. God forbid you say anything negative about the beloved Big Tree Tech boards and their stupid ducks, you know? I think that's it. You know, there's conflicting evidence from, you know, their own people, their admin guy, and then the engineer telling me they're not going to use them. The admin guy saying they are going to use them and they are going to sell them. The boards are out there. Don't know. All that does not change the fact that these processors are out in the wild on these boards and they're having problems with Marlin. So, do you guys have any questions? I'm just checking. Someone put a link in. Someone put a link. I don't know what this link is for. Oh, one of the other things. So, you know, there was something where I'm still kind of on the fence about. I gave them the benefit of the doubt, and that was their whole MOSFET things with those Windsock brands, since I saw Lightspeed mention it. The funny thing is, if you look at some of their newer boards, they're not using that brand of MOSFET anymore. I wonder why. That's about it. Yeah, you know, and the other thing, like I said, my main concern about the whatever you want to call it, the not ST processors, the clones, the knockoffs, whatever, is what happens when the system hard locks and it's in the middle of a heating cycle telling your MOSFET to heat and that pin gets stuck on and you're not there. You know, that has happened with Big Tree Tech boards in the past. Big Tree Tech also has a reputation of sending out firmware that's not correct for the processor. When they had multiple builds out for their E3 mini series, and as far as I know, they've since corrected this, where they were forcing a 512K flash into a 256K part, and people were having the boards, and Scott from Marlin can confirm this, that this is factual, and I'm not pulling this out of my ass, that the printers were locking on because the software was crashing because people were flashing 512K firmware on a 256K chip because Big Tree Tech was too cheap, and they went with a 256K part, but their firmware was set up to compile for a 512K chip. So, yeah. There's more technical details. If you guys want to look up the datasheet on the GD32F103 RET chip, which is the copy one that has been being talked about, there's an issue with the clock speeds everything runs at and it not matching up with the correct 48 megahertz clock speed that USB requires, which is causing stability problems. And there's not a real easy way to make it run at the correct speed. So I would not be using these chips in a application. I consider, especially in my house, a 3D printer to be a high reliability application. I would not trust my processor to be knockoffs. I would sooner choose knockoff MOSFETs than processors because the processor controls everything. I think I put it all out there. You know, guys can go keep talking shit about me in the Facebook group. Don't care. It still doesn't change the fact that these boards are out there. They were sold to people under the guise of being STM32s, and the processors don't work. So I give you all the information here. You guys can take and make of it what you want. You can buy their boards. You can not buy their boards. I don't care. You can not buy the boards we sell, or I don't care. I'm just here. I have this company, and I do this because I'm passionate about this stuff. And I'm tired of seeing this kind of stuff happening. Maker's Muse just also put a video out about the 7 sins of printer companies. And one of those things was them pushing stuff onto the community to figure out. And Big Tree Tech is notorious for doing this because they refuse to actually pay people who know what they're doing to get their code working correctly. I'm tired of seeing these companies go, hey, here's hardware, figure it out. And they're selling it to people when stuff isn't done. I think it's wrong. And it's not how I will ever do business. So spend your money how you guys think. If it's with us, great. If not, great. You guys are individuals. Do what you want. I said my piece. I appreciate everybody tuning in. And as always, happy printing. Say no to clones.